Well, we've been looking at the life of Elisha, but our story today starts in Syria. And in Syria, the king, in his palace, he's talking to his top commanders in the army. Because you see, he'd been planning on raiding into Israel and attacking the king of Israel. He had heard where he would be, and he was going to plan to ambush him. And on the first occasion, he didn't turn up. The second occasion, he wasn't there. The third occasion, he came up. And he was now thinking to himself, somebody is a traitor. Somebody is going to the king of Israel and telling him where we're going to be when we set our ambush. And he looked around at all the people in the room and he said, which one of you is it? And they're all thinking, it's not me, it's not me. And then one of the men says, it's none of us. It's the God of Israel. You see, the God of Israel, he knows everything that you say, even when you're in your own bedroom on your own. He knows. And he is going and he is telling Elisha, the prophet of God in Israel, and of course he's then going to the king of Israel and he's telling the king what's happening. That's why we cannot get the king of Israel in an ambush. Do you know, that's something every one of us needs to remember as well. We come to church and you know, God knows everything that you say while you're in church. But he also knows everything you say when you're at home or when you're at school. He knows everything you say when you're at work. And that should make us think we've got to be careful what we say. But not just that. He knows what you do. Wherever you are, he knows. The king of Syria now knew that God knew everything he was saying. So he decided, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of Elisha. I think he must have forgot. God knows everything that he's thinking. God knows everything he's saying. But he sends his men to where Elisha was, to Dothan. And if God had wanted, he could have told Elisha, and Elisha could have just got up and walked out. And they would never get him, because God knows everything. But you know, God had a different plan. And so when the morning came, the people looked out. And as they looked out, there was the army of Syria all around the city of Dothan. And you can imagine, you'd be scared. Great army outside. Elisha's servant woke him, come and see. He was afraid as he looked at that army. Elisha wasn't. Do you know what Elisha said? He said, listen, there's more on our side than there is on their side. I'm sure he looked around the city and not many soldiers, not many people. But you know, there was something which Elisha knew. And so Elisha prays to God, and he prayed to God that he would open the eyes of his servant. Because sometimes there are things which we forget, and because we can't see. And all of a sudden, as his eyes opened, he saw all around, and he saw that all around were the angels of God, flaming chariots of fire. And then he knew just how good God was and how powerful. There was nothing to fear, nothing at all, because God's in control and God's working everything out in a way that pleases him. Well, Elisha decided, I'm going to go out and I'm going to speak to them. So he got up and he started to walk out the city gates, down the road towards the Syrian army. And as he goes, he prays. And he asks God to blind all of the army. And that's what happens. You see, God heard his prayer and God answered his prayer. That's something else we always need to remember about God. He hears us and he answers our prayers according to his will. What a great God Elisha had. What a great God we can have as well. And so as he got closer, he came up to the man in charge and he said, listen, the man you're looking for isn't here. He said, I'll take you to where he is. And even though they were all blind, they all followed him, maybe put their hands on the shoulder of the man in front, and they marched all the way from where they were to the man that they were really looking for, which was the king of Israel. They tried trapping him over and over again in ambushes. And Elisha was going to take them right into Samaria, which was a number of miles further down the country. Do you know, they marched all that way, and I'm sure people saw what was happening, and they ran ahead and told the people in Samaria what was coming. And of course, when they got there, the soldiers were there, they had their weapons ready. The king of Israel said to Elisha, what do we do? Shall I kill them all? And he said, no, we're going to show mercy to them. They're like prisoners of war. And he said, let's show some kindness to them. Do you know what he did? He prayed to God that they would see again, and they did, and they could look around and see all the army of Israel around. And he also asked the king of Israel to give some food and some water. And you know, they had a great feast, those soldiers, all because Elisha wanted to show kindness and mercy to them. Do you know, when they'd finished, what would happen to prisoners of war? Well, do you know what happened to these? They were sent on their way, and they went back safely all the way to Syria. In fact, after that, the king of Syria didn't send any more raiding parties into Israel. Do you know, that's something else we can remember about God, isn't it? You know, God says, do good to them that hate you. Now, that isn't just something which he says to do, that's something which he's done as well. Do you know, before we became Christians, God showed mercy to us. We were his enemies. We didn't trust in him, we didn't follow him. We did the opposite. We looked to our own selves for doing what we wanted. But God sent his son who died on the cross to save boys and girls, men and women from their sins, so that we could come into his family and be part of his. So when Christ talks about loving your enemies, that's his example to us, and we need to follow him. What a great God we've got. A God who knows everything, a God who's all powerful, and a God who is merciful. And he's merciful to me, to you, and to all who will call upon him.